Woo! This is episode 18 of The Fight Guy. I am your host, Guy Pert. Yes, I'm going to break down the UFC London card tomorrow. I'm going to let you know who I think is going to win, give you my insight on a few fights that I really like, that sort of thing that I usually do. I'm going to tell you about Leon Edwards' staph infection and how that is going to affect his fight. And then I'm going to fix the lightweight division. Like I work for the UFC, I'm going to fix it for free, so pay attention, don't go anywhere. We're going to get into it starting with first topic. All right, Leon Edwards appears to have staph infection. Every fighter that has had staph infection so far this year has pretty much lost, with the exception being Merab. I feel like Merab can have an arm amputation and he still wouldn't lose. So are we going to count that? No, we're not going to count that. Here's a photo of Leon Edwards yesterday. This came out from MMA Orbit on X, one of the many news accounts on X. It appears that Leon Edwards does have a volcano here on his arm. And people want to play this off, including Leon Edwards. They want to play this off like staph infection. You know, it's not a big deal. I thought it was a bug bite. I thought it was a bug bite. It's not just a bug bite, Leon. It's a staph infection that you have on your arm. This looks like a volcano on Mars, and it most certainly does affect your body in various different ways. All right? I'm a dirty guy. I'm from Louisiana. All right? I train grappling, so of course I've had staph infection a few times. All right? It's true. I've had staph infection a few times, and it does affect a lot of things, including reduced training capacity. All right, if you have staph infection, which Leon Edwards certainly does have staph infection here, at least he did, it's going to affect your training capacity. You're not, maybe you're not able to grapple with some guys, high-level guys that come in your fight camp trying to get you prepared for a Sean Brady or a Bilal rematch or somebody with high grappling potential. Your training sessions are going to be limited, so you're not going to be able to work on all the aspects that you need to be working on. That is a lose. Your energy drains faster. You're going to be more nauseous, all right, during fight camp. Not saying these are going to be factors during the fight, even though I do believe that they will be, and we'll get into the breakdown in a few minutes. But what else does this affect? It affects your weight cut, all right? You're not going to be able to cut weight as effectively as somebody without staph infection. You're going to feel nauseous all the time. It's going to affect your recovery lag, decreased power, increased anxiety, right? Leon Edwards lost the belt at home. He says, oh, yeah, 5 a.m., it was too early. Okay. He had a lot of anxiety. He talked about it after the fight. There's stresses of fighting at home. This has effects on your blood. It has effects on your performance. It's not looking good for Leon. It's not looking good for Leon. I think this is going to add a pressure and anxiety on him. I mean, if he loses this fight, he might not get an opportunity at the belt again. If you are the UFC, this is exactly how you fix your lightweight problem. I'm doing it for free, so pay close attention, take notes if you got to. Let's get into it. The very first fight you can make, and before I read this off, you can swap Charles Oliveira with Justin Gaethje. These two fighters you could swap positions with depending on the fan bases and what the UFC wants to do. I would lead the list like this, and I'm going to tell you reasons why. Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira 2, the rematch. You booked this fight for multiple reasons. Firstly, this is the next highest ranked guy in line after Arman Tsarukyan. You cannot give Arman Tsarukyan an immediate opportunity after he sabotaged a card earlier this year by pulling out the night before so a number 10 ranked guy could step in and fight Islam. Shame on you. Shame on your family. Shame on you. Bad boy. You got to give it to Oliveira. He's the next highest ranked guy. He's number 2. He just fought Arman Tsarukyan. Sure, he lost. He did win that 1 1/3 final round, but he almost submitted Arman Tsarukyan. People forget this. People forget, man. Arman Tsarukyan's pants were falling off, and that was the only reason that guillotine could not be 100% tight. Go back, watch the tape, tell me I'm wrong. You got to punish Arman Tsarukyan. Let him work his way back up. He just needs to fight one more guy. He's the number 1 ranked contender. He could get the next opportunity. Give it to Charles Oliveira. Islam's going to fight twice more this year. He's going to fight this summer, probably International Fight Week, and he's going to fight in Abu Dhabi in October. So if Ilya Tybura does his job or whoever's next in line, they could fight Islam in October. Give him Charles Oliveira. Give the guy who gave Islam his belt an opportunity to take it back. The fight will sell. Number 2, Ilya Tybura versus Dustin Poirier. You cannot give Ilya Tybura Islam Makhachev next. I've made this very clear in my last video. I'm open to debating anybody on this, but it is not the fight to make right now. Later down the future, we're going to kick that can one more time. Who does Ilya Tybura fight to show that he could hang with lightweights? Give him Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, debatably, maybe the only other person besides Max Holloway who's got great, if not better boxing than Ilya in the lightweight division. Yes, I know Ilya just knocked out Max Holloway, but boy, can Dustin Poirier box, and he's never lost 2 fights in a row. This fight would sell. It would be a legendary retirement fight for Poirier like he wants. And if Ilya wins that fight, no questions asked. Give him Islam next. Abu Dhabi, book it. Poirier is the guy. He's a top 4 guy. All right, he's got wins over all the legends in the division pretty much that count, that weren't for the belt. Give him Dustin Poirier. I'm a Dustin Poirier fan too. All right, it's a big risk for fans of both fighters. The fight would sell, and there would be no questions asked who gets to fight Islam next if Ilya beats Poirier. Third fight to make is Arman Tsarukyan against Justin Gaethje. The reason being, and I said you could swap Gaethje and Chandler, so you could give Gaethje Islam next, but this fight makes more sense. I know it was unattractive, the win over Fiziev. I knew it would be when they substituted Dan Hooker and Fiziev. That's why I was so upset about it, because people would say, oh, Gaethje doesn't deserve to get a shot at the belt next. All right, give him the number 1 contender then. Give him the guy with the most similar fighting style to Islam Makhachev than anybody else in the UFC. Give him Arman Tsarukyan. If he beats Arman Tsarukyan, no questions asked if he should get a chance at the belt in his next fight. That's the one to make. Or, like I said, you could swap Gaethje and Oliveira, and we can get Arman versus Charles 2 in a 5-round fight this time. 5-round fight. And see what happens for the number 1 spot. Fourth fight to make, International Fight Week maybe, Max Holloway versus Dan Hooker, BMF. I like this fight for Hooker just as much as I like the Gaethje fight. It's a good opportunity for both guys. It's an opportunity for Max to rebound after his KO loss to Ilya Tybura and to solidify a top contender spot for Max Holloway or Dan Hooker, the winner of that bout. We move on to the 5th fight. Gamrot. Give Jesus Gamrot the winner of Michael Chandler versus Paddy. It would be a big test for Paddy. All right. Coming off of a win from Bobby Green, now beating Michael Chandler, and now getting an opportunity against a real serious grappler. Those triangles aren't going to work against Gamrot. It would be a very interesting fight. I'd love to see how Paddy would adapt, and I would love to see Michael Chandler against Gamrot. Those guys would just be throwing hammers on their feet. Honestly, wouldn't see as much wrestling as I think we would expect. In the 6th fight, I would give Beneil Dariush the loser of Chandler versus Paddy. I think that those are the next fights to make in lightweight. It sorts out all the debacle. It sorts out the confusion on, oh, Ilya needs to fight Islam next. This division isn't fair. This is exactly what needs to happen next. This is how you restore order to the lightweight division, and we not fuck things up here. Can we not fuck things up here, please, UFC? UFC London, we have a fruitful card. A lot of great matchups, okay? A lot of great fighters. I think we have 13, 14 fights on this entire card. I'm going to give you my picks, my predictions for just about every single one of these fights. Doesn't mean you should bet on all these people just because I picked them, but I will also give you a couple locks, all right, who I think is absolutely going to win. But we'll start with the very first fight. We have Guram Kudakalize versus Cal Fernandez. Who's going to win this fight? This is going to be a lock of the card. I've got to go with Guram to win this fight. Both of these guys, it's worth noting, have over a 50% finish rate, which is big. Guram, apparent BJJ and Japanese black belt. He's got amazing rubber guard. His striking, I'm going to give his striking a 4 out of 5 stars. He's dangerous everywhere. His grappling, I'm going to give him a 4 out of 5 stars. Takedowns, you know, he doesn't have the best takedown defense. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. All right, I would say that his biggest weakness is his takedown defense, but I don't think that Cal Fernandez is good enough on the offensive grappling side to really threaten Guram with takedowns. He could try to steal, a round with a takedown or some control, but Guram's got really good rubber guard, and he's dangerous off of his back. I'm going to go with Guram to win this. It's easily a lock for me. Easily a lock. We'll go to the next fight here. I'll just move right on. Nathan Fletcher, Kaue, Loughran. Good old-fashioned English boy against an Irish boy. I'm going to go with the Irish one on this fight. Reason being, okay, both of these guys also have over a 50% finish rate. Everybody on this card does except for 2 female fighters. Shocker. Kaue, I give him, 3 stars on his grappling, 3 stars on his striking. I want to give him 4 on his striking. We just got to let him fight some higher caliber opponents first. Nathan Fletcher, I give him a 3 stars on his grappling, but 2 stars on his striking. He really relies on the power punch. I don't think that he has as good technical boxing as Loughran does. That's really his biggest weakness, is his technical boxing. Obviously, being from Ireland, the Irish lad can strike. I do think that Loughran will probably get a finish. I think he'll get a knockout finish, but if this goes to decision, and he shrugs off any potential takedown attempts from Nathan, I think he'll easily win that decision. He is an underdog, so I'm going with an underdog pick. Second fight of the card. I think the Irish boy is going to get it done. We're going to move on to the next fight. Shauna Bannon, Pulyaev Tomar. This is the fight that literally every single person, every single UFC fight fan is looking forward to tomorrow. I am on the edge of my seat. All seriousness, though, Pulyaev Tomar, the only female fighter from India, I believe. At least the first female fighter from India in the UFC, so there's that. Shauna Bannon, she does not have a finish rate over 50%. I think she only has like 2 finishes. So she's a decision fighter. Pulyaev Tomar, she's not a decision fighter. She's got a finish rate over 50%. I do see a grappling deficit on both girls' sides. I think Shauna's probably more likely to go for a takedown if things aren't working out on her feet. But she is a very talented kickboxer. She's a good striker. Pooja's best weapon is going to be her power punches. I give both of these girls a 1 star in their grappling and 3 stars in their striking. It could go either way. I would not be surprised if we saw Pulyaev get a knockdown or some big moments early on and then kind of run low on the gas tank like she did her last fight. Probably what we're going to go see. I would love to see a finish, though. It'd be great if they can keep the same momentum that the female fighters had last week. So my pick, I'm going to go with Pulyaev to win this fight. I do know she's at a 6-inch reach disadvantage, but she kind of just charges in there, bulldozes forward. Hopefully, we see her land one of those punches. She's kind of like Nunes in the last fight. She's going to bulldoze forward and just kind of throw some power punches. Hopefully one of them lands. Shauna's very experienced, so it's unlikely. I understand Shauna's probably going to win the decision, but I like to be fun. I'm a fun guy. And once again, it's the fight guy. It's not the fight girl. I'm going to go with Pulyaev Tomar just because I like to hope. I could have dreams and ambitions. I hope that this is an entertaining fight and it does not go to a Bannon decision win. Let's get funky. Let's mix it up. Only female fighter from India. Let's set a good example, Pulyaev. We move on to the next fight. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Andre Pulyaev. This is going to be a good fight. I haven't done a lot of homework on Andre. I saw, I think, his Contender Series fight. Let's see who that was. Was it a Contender Series? Yeah, against Lee Anderson. Yeah, I'm going to go with Christian Leroy Duncan to get this done. Reason being, all right, it is Andre's debut. All right, Duncan, it's his hometown crowd. Hopefully the anxiety works in his favor. I think it'll be a little bit more stressful making your UFC debut against a guy in front of his hometown crowd. I think Christian Leroy Duncan has better striking. He's fought guys in the UFC at a high level already. He's kind of adjusted his game plan. He's adjusted to the temperature of the water. I do think their grappling skills are about equal. Would have to see something special from Pulyaev, but I do give both of these guys a 2 stars in their grappling. I give Christian 4 stars in his striking, and I give Andre 3 stars in his striking. Maybe I'll adjust some of those ratings after the fights tomorrow. Both these guys have finish rates over 50%, so hopefully we see a finish here. I'm going to go with Christian Leroy Duncan to get the win. Hopefully a knockout. I want to see some knockouts. I'm feeling, some knockouts tomorrow in London. Next fight, this is a good one. We have Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. I might get some flack. I might get some hate for this pick. I've gone back and forth on this one. By the day of the week, I've gone back and forth. I think I'm finally going to go with Marcin. It could go either way. I understand Mick Parkin is undefeated. 4 fights in the UFC, 1 fight on Dana White Contender Series. It has been, not that he's a fraud or he can get fraud checked. He's already been in the UFC for a little bit. But it has been year of the fraud checks, and we've had more undefeated fighters lose their zeros at a pace this year than any other year we've ever seen before. And I'm just saying, it's been happening. All right, I'm not gonna bet against the flow. I'm not gonna swim against the current on this one here. All right, Marcin Tybura, I think he's got better grappling than Mick Parkin. Mick Parkin, I'm gonna give him 2 out of 5 stars on his grappling. I give Marcin Tybura a 3 out of 5 stars on his grappling. I think it's gonna take him multiple takedown attempts, but he will eventually get one if he could survive the first round with Mick. Mick isn't going to give everything that he has to get a knockout punch in the first round. Of course, he's going to be looking for it. Of course, he's in front of a hometown crowd. Of course. But he has went to a decision a few times in his last 5, and I don't think he's afraid to do that here as long as he gets the win. So I think Marcin Tybura is going to kind of force the grappling on Mick once maybe like the end of the first round, second round. I think it's really going to start to play a role. I do give Mick the edge in striking. All right, I'm going to give Tybura a 3 stars. I'll give Mick a 4. But this fight, it can go either way. Both these guys, top 15 ranked heavyweights. Both these guys finish rates over 50%, and Mick Parkin is undefeated. This is going to be a great fight. Excited to watch it. We're going to move on to the next fight on the preliminary card. This is one of my locks of the card, all right? I've given one lock already. The very first fight, Guram is certainly going to win that fight. All the other ones, they can go either way, like I've said, all right? But this one, this is going to be my lock of the card. We have Loughran Kavanagh versus Felipe dos Santos, all right? And I know what I just said. It has been year of the fraud checks. It has been year of the undefeated guys losing their zeros. But Loughran, I think he's just a little bit better everywhere than Dos Santos is. The record, just a little bit better. 8-0 versus Felipe Dos Santos being 8-2. Man, both these guys have finish rates over 50%. Like I mentioned, Loughran is undefeated. Both these guys, I give them 3 stars in their grappling. All right, they're both very good at grappling. They're not some of the best. They're not the best. They're not bad. They're both pretty good with their grappling. They're both pretty good with their takedown attempts. They're both pretty good at being able to control parts of the fight that involve grappling skills. However, I got to give Kavanagh the edge in striking. I'm going to give him 3 out of 5 stars in his striking versus Dos Santos. I give him 2 out of 5 stars. I'm going to go with Kavanagh to win the decision here. We might even see a knockout if he gets him hurt early. Like I said, he's more explosive. He's better technically with his striking, mixing it all together. I'm going to go with Kavanagh. We're going to move on to the next fight. And that's my lock that's one of my locks right here. Kavanagh and Guram. I believe those two are certainly going to win. But we're going to move on. Move straight on to the last fight on the prelims here. We have Herbert versus Chris Padilla. This is a great fight, okay? It could go either way. As many of you may have known, most of you have probably seen the clip. Herbert almost knocked out Ilia Topuria. I understand. I believe that was a close or a short notice fight. Ilia stepped up, went up to lightweight. It was the only fight that he's fought at lightweight so far since he's re-entered the division. But ever since that fight, I haven't really seen anything special from Herbert. That was really like the best he's looked since then. It's kind of just been, I don't want to say a snowball downhill, but what else are you going to say? Chris Padilla, on the other hand, dude is an animal. He's scary to look at. Any dude that I look at and I get scared of, I kind of want to go with that person. So I am going to go with Chris Padilla to win this fight. Both of these guys have over a 50% finish rate. All right, Jai Herbert, I'm going to give him, and I understand, he held his own with Ilya Tybura for a bit, but I'm going to give him a 2 out of 5 stars. Look, it's not like he's ranked top 15. He's been submitted before, I believe, and he gets taken down. Chris Padilla, I think, is a little bit better with grappling. I give him a 3 out of 5 stars. And I give him a 4 out of 5 on the striking. Both of these guys, 4 out of 5 stars on the striking. I just think Chris Padilla has just a little bit of an advantage with grappling, with takedown capability, with clinch control. I think that Chris is going to be able to control these situations that may end up deciding the fight. So I'm going to go with Chris to get this done inside the distance. I do think that he's going to get a submission on Herbert. I know that seems like a crazy... I don't see it being impossible. I see this fight, both guys being tired, Chris being able to take Herbert down, and it's easier to find submissions when you're tired and you kind of just give up your back. You give up situations in grappling exchanges that could be deadly to your ability to win that fight. So we're going to go with Chris. This is going to be another underdog pick. All right, I know a lot of people, I might get some hate for that. I'm not saying it's a lock. I do think Chris is going to get it done. America, motherfucker. Let's move on. First fight on the main card. Is this the main card already? Jeez, what a thick main card. Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charriere. Man, I don't think my opinion is going to be very controversial. I see a lot of people saying the same thing. Both these guys have the same reach at 69 inches. Both these guys have finish rates over 50%. I do think Nathaniel Wood has a little bit better grappling. I'll give that to him. I'm not going to say that he mixes it together with his striking great, but I do think he does have slick grappling. He's got good awareness, what to do in scrambles, what position's a good position, ability to control against a clinch on the cage, ability to get takedowns. However, his chin is questionable. He does get knocked down. All right, and I do think that Charriere, like a lot of other people are saying, if he does get a knockdown or he gets Nathaniel Wood hurt, he has the tools to put him away right then and there. He smells blood in the water. He's going to get the job done. I am pretty confident with this Frenchman. I'm going to go with Charriere to get the win via knockout. This is a good one. Not a lot of people are agreeing with me on this one. I think this is, we'll get right into it. Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan, the Scottish boy. Scottish lad. This is a big opportunity for the country of Scotland. They don't have much left. I was just there. I was there in August. The country is disappearing. Jordan Vucenic, this is a very even fight. I think this is an even fight on the feet. I do think Chris Duncan's probably going to take a lot of damage. Chris Duncan's probably going to lose this fight, if I'm going to be truthful. But I'm going to pick him to win. I like underdogs. I like having somebody to root for, especially a Scottish underdog, somebody whose family was probably in the real-life Braveheart. These are warriors. I think Chris Duncan has got great striking and grappling. Same with Vucenic. I think both these guys are pretty balanced. I want to give Vucenic an edge on the feet. I am going to give him an edge on the grappling. I'm going to give him a 3 out of 5 stars grappling. I'll give Chris Duncan a 2 out of 5 stars grappling, and both these guys 3 out of 5 stars on their striking. Both of these guys have over a 50% finish rate. All right, like just about everybody else on this card, except one fighter we have left, which we'll get to next. But yeah, Jordan Vucenic, he hasn't won a fight in the UFC yet. I think he only had one fight. It was his debut, which he lost, which was on a short notice. So now he's got a full camp. So maybe we'll see things out of Vucenic that we didn't get to see before. Chris Duncan has had multiple fights in the UFC. I just think that he is a little bit more experienced with high-level guys. He's got great technical boxing. That's probably going to be his best weapon. I do think Vucenic is a little bit quicker, punches a little bit harder. He's got tattoo on his cauliflower ear. That's a factor nobody's talking about. I'm going to go with Chris Duncan because I want the Scottish lad to stick it to the big man. Give England the middle finger. Scotland till we die. We're going to move on to the last female fight of the card. Thank God. Molly Meatball McCann versus Alexia Thainara. Molly Meatball McCann, 14-7. 14-7. She is the only other fighter next to Shauna Bannon on this entire card with less than a 50% finish rate. She's at a 5-inch reach disadvantage. I will give it to her. I do like Molly in strawweight. I think it fits her better. But Alexia, she's making her debut, greater than a 50% finish rate. Yes, I understand a lot of the girls that she fought hasn't had winning records, but she looks more lesbian than Molly Meatball. I'm not sure that she is a lesbian. I know Molly Meatball is, and she just has that butch look, I believe. So I'm going to go with Alexia Thainara. I think that she's going to finish Molly. She's probably going to take her down and try to submit her, but end up getting a TKO on the ground. That's what I think is going to happen. I give Molly McCann a 1 out of 5 star in the grappling. And I got to give Alexia, with the little bit that I've seen, I'm going to give her a bold 3 out of 5 stars. Bold. Both these girls, 3 out of 5 stars on the striking. So Molly's always got a chance on the feet. You never know. But in that first 30 seconds, if Molly doesn't get lucky and knock Alexia down, I'm very confident Alexia Thainara is going to win this fight. It's going to be my lock, another lock of the card. Alexia to win this fight. Probably inside of the distance, but I'd be shocked if it went to decision. We move on. This is a fight. This is a great fight. Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. This is going to be Kevin Holland's 20th fight since 2020, I believe. Gunnar Nelson couldn't be further from that. This guy fights like once every 2 years. He's kind of like Superman. He comes, he saves the day, and then he goes into the Fortress of Solitude and chills out for a little while. Gunnar Nelson, let me see the last time this dude's fought. Okay, a submission win in March of 2023, pretty much 2 years ago, almost to the day. Kevin Holland, opposite story. Watch, this guy's got like 5 fights in the last 2 months. He has won 1 in his past 5. But yeah, look, way more active. Had 3 fights in 2024. This is already going to be a second fight this year. It's March. I love Kevin Holland. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland to win this fight. I do think Gunnar Nelson is going to be a problem. It's going to be a challenge for Kevin, but he does have a significant reach advantage, I believe. Look at that. A 9-inch reach advantage. Kevin Holland likes to strike. We always talk about Kevin Holland's grappling, but rarely do we really get to see it. I understand he got ragdolled by Khamzat Chimaev, but Gunnar Nelson is not Khamzat Chimaev. He's more of a traditional jiu-jitsu guy. Kevin Holland is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, a legitimate black belt in jiu-jitsu. You just don't get to see it that often. With a 9-inch reach advantage, we're going to see a lot more of Kevin's punches hitting Gunnar in the face than we are going to see with grappling exchanges. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland to win this fight. It's going to be another underdog pick, baby. And it's going to be my last lock of the card. My last lock of the card is going to be Kevin Holland to beat Gunnar Nelson. And then we're going to enjoy the rest of the fights. We're going to move on to this one, which I am still kind of back and forth with my pick, but I got to stick with what I put down. And we're gonna read this off. Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. Who's gonna win this fight? Jan's 42 years old, light heavyweight. I know 41-year-old Jared Cannonier just shut down RoboCop in the middleweight division, but this is the deadliest division, I think, in the UFC right now, the light heavyweight division. I mean, Jan has impressive wins just about over everybody, pretty much. Let's take a look at his last 5. Alex Pereira, a split decision loss that a lot of people think he won. A draw against Magomed Ankalaev, a 5-round draw. A knockout win over Alexander Rakic. A loss to Glover Teixeira. And Israel Adesanya, a 5-round unanimous decision win in which he outstruck him. I understand that most of these fights were more than 2 years ago. Jan Blachowicz is coming back from a double shoulder operation. All right, he had a shoulder operation, I believe, on his right shoulder in 2023. Then he had another operation on his left shoulder in 2024. Now he's back over a year and a half later against one of the hungriest guys in the division. This is definitely going to be Carlos's biggest test by far. Not really going to get a lot of bigger tests than this one. However, you got Jan Blachowicz coming off of over a 1.5-year layoff, a split decision loss to Alex Pereira. I do believe that he won. He was dealing with both shoulder problems, which he got operations on. I just don't see you coming back I get people, I don't know, like people are, oh, the knee injury wasn't that bad. He got it fixed. He had a surgery. It's not that bad. It's not a big deal. Oh, the shoulder problem, it's not a big deal. He had surgery. He had operation. He came back. Look, I understand Fiziev came back. I thought that knee would be more of a problem against Justin Gaethje, and it wasn't. But I would have felt very dumb if I picked the guy who had a 1.5-year layoff, a knee surgery, and expecting him to be 100%. He looked pretty good. But obviously, he was not 100% if he couldn't beat Justin Gaethje. The fight went exactly the way that it went the first time. I bring that up because it's relevant for this. Jan Blachowicz, 2 shoulder surgeries, a 1.5-year layoff, and you're telling me he's going to be 100% as good as he was when he was 40? He's 42 now. I'm going to go with youth. I'm going to go with Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to go with momentum here. All right, the experience is by far in Jan's side, but I'm going with youth over experience. I do think that the betting odds are a little bit wide. Jan at a plus 215. I mean, shoot, if you're betting, that wouldn't be a bad bet, but I'm not betting on this. I'm going with Carlos Ulberg. I think it'll be a great fight. Either way, I'm going to go with him to get the finish. I know if Alex Pereira couldn't finish Jan, if Ankalaev couldn't finish Jan, if Israel Adesanya couldn't finish Jan, if Rocket couldn't finish Jan, how's Carlos Ulberg going to finish Jan? Well, the difference between Carlos and all those unique, very high-level, talented fighters that I listed is none of them fought Jan at 42, and none of them fought Jan coming back from 2 shoulder operations. So I'm going to bet with the youth against the experience on this one. We're going to go with Carlos, and we're going to move on to the main event right here, baby. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. As discussed in the beginning of this video, Leon Edwards has staph infection. I'm not going to say that he has staph infection. He has had staph infection for this training camp. People argue that Sean Brady didn't get a full camp against Leon Edwards, that this is sort of a short notice fight. It's not that short notice. I think he had 4 or 5 weeks at least, which he said he was already in camp since the Gilbert Burns fight, which was his best display, best showing yet. This is a good matchup. This is a good matchup. It's hard to pick. Leon Edwards, a former champ, coming in at plus money. It wouldn't be a bad bet to bet on Leon Edwards. However, we're talking about staph infection here. We're talking about Benoit Saint Denis, who got knocked out by Dustin Poirier in the second round, who had staph infection on his head. I get it. On his head, though. We got Yuri, who had staph infection whenever he fought Alex Pereira the first time. We saw how that played out. We got Sean Strickland, who had staph infection against Dricus, and he didn't look like himself. At least he didn't even look like as good as he did in the first fight. Why? Because staph does energy drain. It does cause nausea. It does cause reduced training capacity, recovery lag, decreased power, anxiety, all of these issues from staph infection. On top of that, a main event. It's kind of like this is your last redemption here. You're at the top of the consolation bracket. Any opportunity to get back for, the headline another UFC London or a UK event or to fight for the belt, this is your opportunity, Leon. And I think that staph infection is going to come in to play a bigger role. I think that Sean Brady has been training for Leon Edwards for a while, a little bit longer than 5 weeks. He knew that this fight was going to happen. He was a champion at some point. You're a top contender. You're preparing for the highest level guys, even if it's not your next fight. And he was preparing for Bilal, who's a pretty similar fighting style to Leon Edwards, minus the takedown attempts. I think Sean Brady's going to get this one done. Leon Edwards does have a 2-inch reach advantage, yeah. I do think Sean Brady is going to take Leon Edwards down multiple times this fight. And I do think that he is going to find the submission. I do think Bilal was right. I do think that Leon Edwards is going to lose this fight unless he can knock Sean Brady out early. Maybe we have a little Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards 1 vibes from this. I think that the best way for me to put this fight is this is basically the Leon Edwards, Colby Covington 2. If Colby Covington actually fought the way he was supposed to. I think Sean Brady even has better wrestling than Colby Covington. Come at me. I don't care. This is what I believe. I think we're going to see, this fight's going to play out like if we would have gotten a prime Colby Covington. I think how this fight's going to play out. So I'm going to go with Sean Brady to win this fight. Hate it or love it. Let me go ahead and show you my picks one last time. This is who I got. All right. This has been the episode 18 of The Fight Guy. Check back with me on Sunday. We'll see how we did. We have some other things we're going to talk about and fighter news, fighter interviews, breakdowns, predictions, everything. Like, subscribe for more of that shit, and I will see you this weekend.